Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. East, West, North, South, no gender, no, no, East, West, North, South, no caste, no creed, no gender, no religion, no nationality. All that mattered for Pujya Gurudev was how he could wake up the individuals from the deep slumber state and transform them into better individuals. I have one such person with me who heard about Pujya Gurudev from the co-passenger on a flight and decided to come and meet him, not knowing that he would be completely part of her life. This happened somewhere in 1990 February. After meeting Pujya Gurudev, it had become love at first sight. Until he attained Mahasamadhi, she never left him. In a year, almost, she would travel 9 months with him, completely became close to Pujya Gurudev. And today, the entire Chimaya mission family owe a gratitude of huge debt to her, because she is the one who recorded Pujya Gurudev's Bhagavad Gita in Piercy in 1991. When I say, she's recorded Pujya Gurudev's Bhagavad Gita, who could be that person? Does she need any introduction? And who's the person who introduced her to Chimaya mission? She also needs no introduction. The person who introduced her to Chimaya mission was none other than Anjali Singh, the great photographer the great photographer, and the person who recorded Pujya Gurudev's Bhagavad Gita is none other than Isabel Taylor. Isabel Taylor, born in Portugal, had settled in U.S. and having an Indian guru, how her life got completely transformed. Let us listen from her own words. Hari Om, Isabel.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.
I'm meeting you after 25
Amma,
years.
Hari Om se फिर से. Yes.
Hari Om, Isabel. I don't like to address you as Isabel because I used to call you as Isabel Auntie.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe you could again.
Because morning you told me but it's still pinching me a lot. Yeah. As I told you, I have met you again after 25 long years. You remember we traveled together with Pujya Gurudev in Andhra Pradesh.
Yes.
And I have very strong memory how you would buy books and keep by the side of Gurudev's bed so that he could read in the night times. And once you had given such a huge book, Gurudev finished it in 3 days and he has written it back to you. Almost some 600 pages book or something like that. And I remember your expression also, Swamiji, you finished it. He said, yes.
He was a voracious reader. When he started, he just wouldn't put it down.
Yeah, okay. Now, tell me something about yourself. Born in Portugal, settled in America, isn't it?
Eventually.
And meeting Gurudev. So how did all this happen? Meeting Gurudev especially.
Well, I had been coming to India for 10 years regularly. I fell in love with India the first time I arrived, very first time. And the government who sponsored our trip suggested that we needed to change the image of India abroad. Said Singapore is a tiny little place and it had 3 million tourists. And India is such a magnificent, huge country, and there were 800,000. So I said, all right, I'm going to do that. And I started a business, bringing Indian things that I would commission to America, selling them, etc. So it was very interesting, and I kept coming. And I was going to Auroville to do some past life regression work, which is supposed to change you at a cellular level as you have changes in consciousness. And at the airport in Delhi, this lady, turned out to be Anjali Singh, said, where are you going? And so, you're going to Baba, I'm going to Baba. But she said, he's not my guru. My guru is Swami Chinmayananda, and I'd never heard of him. And I said, And she said, yes. And she took my boarding pass and did the BMI chart and explained it. And she said, does this make sense? And I said, this makes perfect sense. It's what I teach. I didn't know it had a name. So, where is your teacher? And she said, oh, he's in Coimbatore. I'm going there on Monday. And I said, then I can't go, because I came to be with Baba. And she said, oh, no. You have to come with me if you want, because Baba is leaving at 5 o'clock in the morning from Madras. So she went into first class, I went into coach, and before I left the airport, when we arrived in Bangalore, I bought a ticket to Coimbatore. I didn't know. I'm very ignorant of Indian geography. Had no idea where it was. But thank goodness it turned out to be very close, because it only cost 200 and some rupees. And on Monday, I went to have lunch with Anjali and her auntie and uncle, and we flew to Coimbatore, which is where we were met and where I met Gurudev. Shall I tell you about that?
Of course, yes.
We arrived, and it turned out to be Tangam Ama's house, the warriors who own the Ayurvedic hospital. But I didn't know about Ayurvedic hospitals then at all either. And we arrived, and from a distance I saw this very majestic figure in orange sitting on an armchair, and a few people sitting around him. And I did my pranams from the door, and I looked up and I went, I didn't say anything. He said, you're welcome, come. And I recognized him because he had come to me in dreams 3 times. And so I knew it meant something. And I couldn't say anything. I was so surprised. My heart was going boom, 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 boom. I thought, I'm going to explode. But that's okay. That's a good way to die. And so I waited, and I moved back against the wall, and people came and went. And after about a couple of hours, my heart was still going boom, boom, boom. After about a couple of hours, there was a little silence, and I took my mala, and I said, Swamiji, I went to him, said, Swamiji, would you bless my mala? And he said, I don't bless. And I said, all right. Would you give me a mantra? I thought that's what Swamis did. And he said, he looked at me, and that look of his, he looked at me, that piercing look, and smiled and said, you may continue with Om Namah Shivaya. And I thought, how does he know? So my heart beat even harder, and for 3 days that I was there, 2.5 days, I went to the morning talks, and I went to the evening talks, and I was just totally filled with the awe and respect and surprise and delight of what was there. Also, I found that the our hostess was dressed in mundu veshtis, the Kerala sari. So I asked her if she would take me shopping. And she took me shopping, and I came back dressed like a Kerala girl. And when Gurudev came out of his nap, and I came in, and he said, "Oh, my Kerala girl, come to me." And he hugged me and everything. So all the other ladies went out to buy some mundu veshtis. We have photographs of us, all of us, wearing Kerala saris. So it was truly extraordinary. I had never been so close to such a powerful, vibrant personality. His energy was just so amazing, and my heart continued going boom, 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 boom. I didn't sleep. I'd sleep an hour or two. I didn't need to sleep. So I was also reading his books, some of his books, and I didn't leave his side. When he was ready to leave, after 2.5 days, 3:30 in the morning. He always liked leaving early because of the heat of the sun. There was no air conditioning. And I said, "Thank you, Swamiji, for letting me stay with you." And he looked at me, put his arm around me, and said, "Ha! You must come with me now. That is why you came to India." And I went, I know, but how can I go? It's 3:30 and you're leaving, and I haven't packed. And he said, "Never mind, you will follow." So I followed, took a taxi, and took 3 hours to get to Manjari.
This is just 2 days after.
2 days.
After meeting him?
Yes.
This is the after 2 days.
After 2 days, he said, "Come with me." And I said I had other plans, and he said, "Drop them. This is why you came to India." So I said, "Okay." So between 4 o'clock in the morning and 10, I packed, and then I went to the post office and sent a telegram to my husband just saying, "Change of plans, all is well, I will be in touch." Not lying, not saying everything. And then I cancelled my plans at Auroville, and just went like that for 6 weeks. I traveled with him, and for those 6 weeks, my heart was beating. And I said to him one time, "Sometimes I can hardly hear you when you talk, because my heart is beating so loudly." And he said, "That's good. That's the best way of learning Vedanta, with your heart wide open." So after 6 weeks, I left. In the meantime, I met many old-timers, wonderful people, and then I went to meet my husband, and then I met Swamiji, who said, "Come back in October." So I came back in October. I met him in Delhi, and I found out where he was. And I said, "Swamiji, you told me, and I'm here." And he looked. And I went, And then what happened was, he said, "Are you coming with me tomorrow?" And I said, "Swamiji, I'd like to, but there are no tickets on your flight." And Sheila Sharma, Amma, said, "Oh, you can have my ticket because I can't go." And in those days it was easy, so I went as Sheila Sharma, and I paid her, and then I took the flight with Swamiji. And so we spent quite a bit of time, but the first week was in Bangalore.
But 1 minute here. You haven't informed Gurudev that you are coming and that you would like to travel with Pujya Gurudev, right?
No, Well, he said, come to me in Bangalore on the 10th of October.
Okay.
So I just went to meet him. I thought maybe a week. I didn't know. He hadn't promised anything. And so there I was in Bangalore, and I said, Swamiji, it is a pity you are the best teacher of Vedanta. I understand. And he said, And I said, so why is the quality of your videos and books so poor? Everything has mistakes. It's very poor quality. You are not going to live very long. He said, no. And I said, so we need to preserve all that. And he said, yes, we do. Next day, somebody said, we need some good videos. And he said, oh yes, she's doing it in America. And I said, Swamiji, I'm not doing videos. I know nothing about videos. Somebody else said something about videos. She's doing it in America. And after about 100 times, I don't know, many, many times of his saying she's doing it, I figured maybe I was doing it. I didn't know how. And I traveled with him all over the place. I can't even remember where, because all I know is that he was there. I know we went to Nigeria. And then I went home for Christmas and started thinking, how am I going to do this? And since I didn't know anything, I asked people who did, people who had done great productions and all. Who would you recommend? Who would be someone who would be spiritual and would do this, not just professional, but good quality, respectful, etc. And in those days there was no Google. You couldn't Google anything. You had to call one person and another and another and another. It took so long. Eventually picked Bradley Boatman, who was indeed very good, and we arranged to do it. I just took to CCMT in Mumbai my total file, it's quite large, of all the letters, contracts from and to Gurudev, faxes about the production of the Bhagavad Gita. It took a long time. And each time that I wondered why was I doing that, I would say, I think, well, I'm not doing it. He's doing it. He just told me to do it. Do it. Just do it. So I just kept doing it until I left things being planned. And by the way, if anyone who sees this has any original letters or photographs of Gurudev, please take them to CCMT. They have the most wonderful, wonderful people who are keeping all the letters, photographs and videos and everything in perfect condition with air conditioning and more than perfect respect, much better than any of us could do it. So I left everything there just now, last week. And then I went to Sidhbari, and when I was in Sidhbari, this was 91, April I think,
Before
he got
that,
sick.
can we take a pause here?
Oh, of course.
See, you started now getting completely involved into the organization.
Ah.
And how did your family accept it? Did they say no to you?
Somebody asked me, a very old, wonderful Anna in Kerala, I think, how does your husband allow you to travel? And I said, allow? I didn't ask. I told him that I didn't have a choice. When you meet your guru, you don't have a choice. So I just had to. And so my sister thought that he was probably a cheat, like all gurus, and was going to do something, or a powerful hypnotic person or something. A niece of mine thought that somehow I would get all the family money given to the Swami and so on. And one of my daughters thought maybe I wasn't coming back. And my husband at the beginning thought, oh, she'll get it out of her system. After a year he said, are you ever coming back? Because I did spend about 9 months a year with him. But I did go back. I'd say to Swamiji, we have a problem. David is becoming worried. And he said, we have to appease him. You go back for a week or two and then come back to me. I said, well, maybe it has to be more than a week or two. It was amazing. It was amazing. And then in April in Sidhbari, he was, because I was so busy preparing the videos. And I left because I was not a technical person. And in Sidhbari, Swamiji had a heart attack. And we all went around and said our goodbyes. And he said, when I came to him, he said, he held my hand and then he lifted the other hand and put it over and said, oh, after all your work, I may not be able to be there. And I said, Swamiji, the only thing that matters is you. And please, stay around. And I started crying, but not sobbing, just tears coming down my face, because I thought, I really had a lot of attachment. I know we're not supposed to be attached, but I had a lot of attachment such a short time. He got better, and I forget, I traveled with him from place to place, and then went to Swamiji, Gurudev was in Bombay and I was in Delhi, and the day I was going to meet him so we could fly back to America together, something happened. Rajiv Gandhi was shot.
That was in 91
May
something like that.
So I telephoned and said, Swamiji, I'm sorry, unless you send me a special plane, I can't get out of the house. There are people rioting and everything. So he said, you come when you can. So 3 days later, it was safe to go. People were flying, and I took the flight to Bombay. I met him at the airport only. There was no time to go to the ashram or anything. And I remember how when I arrived and I was tired and I had a suitcase and I had to take my big suitcase with me to the gate because it was too late to check it in. And when Swamiji saw me, he said, you made it! and I said, yes, I did. I'm a little heavy loaded, but I made it. So, because I had started traveling with him the year before, meaning I would sit either next to him, or if there were empty seats, I would give him some space. And then I'd go and sit if I wanted to ask some questions that I couldn't ask in public. Otherwise, I left him a little space, and it was just wonderful. Those long trips were fantastic. Fantastic.
What type of questions would you ask?
Well, one time I remember, on the way to America, because there were long flights, I said, Swamiji, Swamiji, you are obviously realized, so you don't have any ego, or do you? Because you love mangoes, and you know it's not good for you, but you're still eating mangoes every chance you get. And he said, he didn't answer. Then, but when we arrived at Upper House, Mukamala's house, he was, the next day, he was sitting at table with Swami Tejamananda, and all the other doctors, everyone was a doctor there then, was standing around. And he said, on the trip here, Isabel said, Swamiji, do you still have an ego? Because you love mangoes. Everybody was so quiet. Even Guruji stopped. He didn't take food to his mouth. There's total silence. And Swamiji noticed. He looked around, everybody was, and he laughed. She doesn't understand that there's no one here, and there was no one there asking the question either. So I said, that's cheating. But I understood. It was really important. And it was such a question that nobody dares to ask because there was too much awe and respect and love towards him. So how can you ask impertinent questions? But it wasn't impertinent. I wanted to know. I really wanted to know.
Okay.
So that it was questions like that. And sometimes there were other questions. I tell him gossip of other gurus.
What type of gossip was it like? And what was Gurudev's comments? What were his
Well, one of his guru bhais, who shall remain nameless because this is not a gossip session, had an ashram in America, and he had apparently had a relationship with many of his lady devotees for 20 years. And each one thought she was the only one, sort of like Radha.
Okay.
And the gopis, 16,000 gopis, and one Radha, each one thought she was Radha. And then one day, one found out and told another and another. So they all had a meeting, the whole ashram. And one of them got up and said, Swamiji, how do you justify having had a relationship with me for so many years? And another one stood up and said, and what about me? And another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. So I said, so Swamiji, this was our Guru Bhai, so what do you say about that? He looked, because any question, he always went to who was asking, where was I coming from? And he said, if that happened to me, I would say, is that so? And I said, what do you mean, is that so? Do you condone that? And he said, no. But it's irrelevant. And I understood that masters come to us, not for us to think of them as normal human beings, but to help us come out of our ignorance and sorrow, and go,
Okay, now share some of your recording experiences in Piercy.
There were very few, because when I was arranging it, there were many, but that is all on file at Sandipani. I arrived with Swamiji Gurudev at Piercy on the in San Jose on the 29th, and Piercy on the 30th. On the 31st, he started the Gita. I had, the 29th we arrived, he started on the 31st, or maybe the 1st of June, that I'm not absolutely sure. And so what happened was that the crew was there, but there were some problems with electricity. Somebody had prepared a beautiful BMI chart, embroidered, hand sewn, and so it was wobbly. And Swamiji looked at it and said, I won't use that. And I said, okay, is there any chart? Well, there's an old one, but it's all messy. So give it to me. We don't have anyone to paint it. Never mind, I'll do it. Are you a painter? Sure, give it to me. So I spent a few hours painting the BMI chart properly, with the blue, the colors they have. and arranging everything. And then the first day of the Gita happened, and everything was fine. And then the second day, something happened to the sound system, second or third day. And so it was saved by the fact that one of the crew had an 8mm camera, which was used for a few hours. And I went to see the crew in the back, and I said, all right, what we have here is an absolutely exceptional teacher who, for the benefit of mankind, is doing a superhuman job of teaching 4 classes a day in spite of his heart problems. And he had a heart attack just 2 or 3 months ago. And we need this. We really need this. So I don't want any more fooling around. Any of you fool around anymore, you're all fired. Now, of course, that was silly, because how could I find a new crew in one day? But they were impressed with that. I said, do whatever you can, fly whatever you can over, but get this repaired, fixed, and continue with it. So they did. And I took off my Indian clothes, put on my jeans, went to Swamiji and said, Swamiji, goodbye. And someone said, you can't be leaving. You've been working on this for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. How can you be leaving? And he looked at me, and then he looked at her and said, she's detached. I said, it isn't just that. This is the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord's song. So it's up to Bhagavan to sing his song. I can go be with my daughter who had her first child, and I wasn't there because of this. So I went home. So I don't have a lot of other experience. There were some other little things that happened. One of which was that after the whole thing, to please the board, the crew decided to put on the credits, we thank His Holiness Swami Chinmayananda for doing this for us, and so on. And then every member of the board was listed as an executive producer, me also. And I was with Gurudev in Ottawa, because I had gone to my grandchild and back to Gurudev in Canada. And received that tape, we played it, and when I got to that, I said, Swamiji, I didn't want any of that. And he said, no, you're right. So I called Brad and I said, look, take out everyone's names, mine too. I don't want anyone's names except the crew, the professionals who were doing it. Who are we to thank him? He's the Lord himself. I mean, ridiculous. So, just... So 3 days later, I have a new tape with all of that edited, but it said special thanks. Now, this project would not have been possible without the help of many, 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 many members of the Chinmaya mission, especially Isabel Taylor. And I said, Swamiji, look at that. And I told him to take it all out. I'll have to call him again. And he said, no, leave it. And I said, what do you mean leave it? I told him. And I said, what do you mean you told him? Yes, I told him. You may not have been behind the camera, but you were a professional part of the thing, so your name must be there. And I said, how can you do that to me? I'm trying to get rid of my ego and you put my name on a video thing. So he said, So that was it with the video. But I continued traveling with him everywhere.
Okay. Initially your family members were criticizing you and your daughter and all. They were a bit suspicious about you. In the sense like you would go with Swami or something like that. later on, how did your family members accept Gurudev?
Well, it didn't take very long because I tend to be passionate. So when my grandchild was born, remember I left him doing the Gita while I went to Portugal. And so I told my daughter to come to London, where I went with Gurudev. We stayed at Laju Chandrai, and I have a picture that I donated to CCMT, in which she is there, my daughter Anne and my granddaughter Carolina are in there, because I said, you have to come and get the blessing. So they came and they adored him, and my daughter had no idea of Swami etiquette. So she came and she said, hello Swami! And I looked at him and he laughed and he said, refreshing, isn't it? Refreshing. So she was sold, and my husband had said that he would follow the texts as I was in traveling with Swamiji. I would give him the book, tell him how he went, and he would follow them. And then by 92, he went to meet Gurudev in Frostburg. And for the first 2 days, he said, yeah, okay, they're only Indians, they don't pay any attention to me, Swamiji's not paying attention, they use so much Sanskrit, it's not clear. And somebody, because I'd given Swamiji a photograph, and he had written David on one of the post-its to put on it, but he forgot. And somebody, Mimi Robbins, a photographer in America, said, Swamiji, see that man over there? That's Isabel's husband. David, come. So David looked up, and he came over. Swamiji had a chair put next to him, and he said to David, so, you've been married 25, 30 years? And David said, yes, Swamiji, we have. He said, how can you stand it? When I'm with her for 30 days, I'm exhausted. And they laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. So, David was hooked. And not only that, but because he didn't know to go and look for him, Swamiji called for him to eat at his table with the Swamis. Every breakfast, every lunch, and every dinner. The bhikshas took place. David had to be there. Every single one of them. And they, no, what's this? And so when I came, Swamiji said, okay, why isn't he here? I said, Swamiji, I'm sorry, it's not going to be your way. With David, it has to be his way. If you want David, you have to send for him. And pay attention. So he'd say, okay. So he'd send for him, and we'd sit there, and I would massage Swamiji's shoulders and then do David's. I'd go to Swamiji's feet, and I'd look up, and I thought, this is heaven. This is absolute heaven. I had my husband, I had my guru, and my heart was beating, and everything was absolutely fantastic. So it was good. So of course I continued until he was there no longer.
So now the entire family started following Gurudev.
Well, David followed because he was on a spiritual path and he liked the scriptures and he liked Vedanta. He's not like me, not very much of a ritual person. I only became a ritualist when I had to take my own sannyas by consecrating myself to the divine by doing a Pada Puja to Swamiji in Sidhbari, but otherwise it wasn't our thing.
Okay.
Our thing was the pure Vedanta and that incredible energy that Swamiji had. And of course we loved him.
Yeah. I heard you were...
We loved him.
I heard you were also associated with Kaur.
Oh, yes. So, first time I went to Sidhbari and Swamiji had his heart attack and all of that. Swamiji wanted to do asked me to do a pamphlet. I gave the whole file to CCMT also, all the originals, to prepare a pamphlet about the court, with now court in my organization for rural development, used to be called the project, primary care and so on. And Dr. Chama Maitre was hooked by Swamiji, and she was taking care of that, and she developed this amazing way of empowering the women and having them really do things on their own. So they may not make things with great quality now for the Western market, but they do their own thing, and they do it extraordinarily well. Anyway, at the time, I did that, and he said, and I gave those letters, his letters saying, this will cost so much, you pay for this, you pay for that, you pay for that, and CCMT will pay for distribution or something. I said, that is fine. So those were given out at the end of the Vivekachudamani, and the idea was to have something in good quality, so that would inspire people to contribute to his many wonderful projects.
Wow.
I still do.
Okay.
I still do. I still fundraise for COI.
Really? Okay, that's good. So your last travel experiences with Pujya Gurudev?
All right. My last travel experiences. I left my ticket. It's still there. It's at CCMT. I arrived in Bombay, and he said, Isabel! He almost never called you by name unless he was calling you, so it was very touching. And he said, we'll have to put up with each other. There's no one else traveling with us. And I said, good, Swamiji, that's great. And we went to Singapore and Kuala Lumpur and Hong Kong and Sydney, and it was fantastic, and that's when we planned the videotaping of the Vivekachudamani, which was going to take place the end of '92. He said, we don't need it. I said, yes, Swamiji, we need it. We don't have the money. We'll get the money. Will you do it? So I had 1 hour, which to call Asha and talk to people. There was Arpitaji, who is now Swamini... something. Radhikananda. Yeah. And there was this lovely young woman from Tanzania.
Shubra.
No, she wasn't there.
From Mauritius?
From Mauritius.
Yeah, Rajshri?
No, Rajshri or Raj something. Asha knows her name. Yeah. Anyway, she was beautiful, she was wonderful, she was young, she thought Swamiji was fantastic, and she contributed some money. Arpita contributed some money, I contributed some money. I typed it all and said, Shubra says this, Asha says that, and we say this. Will you say yes, because it has to start now? And he said, oh, all right. He loved for people, instead of bringing him problems, brought him solutions. He really liked that.
Okay.
So that was planned.
So Vivekachudamani, also your hand was there?
Yeah, my hand was there.
Oh, fantastic.
My hand was there. But that reminds me now that, of course, that was not my last trip with Swamiji, because that last trip was the following year in '93. And then he came to America. But before that, he came to stay at our house.
Okay.
We can't forget that, because that's very, very, very important. He came for 3 days and he stayed 8 days.
Okay.
Heaven. So that was great. And the last year, when I came and traveled with him, and then went back to Washington because he was going to come to our house again, but he wasn't feeling well. And at that last camp, I took my husband, another granddaughter, my sister-in-law, and a friend of hers who was a rabbi. A rabbi is a Jewish priest, Jewish Swami, who was full of interesting questions,
Okay.
and it was fun.
Okay. So when did you meet your last Pujya Gurudev?
The day he left
Okay.
the camp to go to DC, and then 2 days later he said, I'm not coming to your house, I need to rest.
Okay.
But he had a heart attack and went. So it was on the 25th of July, 1993.
Oh God. Let's say 2 years. What he has done to you?
So
How much he has?
I was with him for 3 years. Well, there were a few months I couldn't be, but the rest of that all the time. And yes, he commented on the fact that isn't it amazing how the Lord works things in such a short period of time. I just changed everything. I was no longer interested in accumulating things. I was interested in being really happy, not just
Yeah.
contented with a thing or
Yeah,
two.
right.
And it was extraordinary. He changed our life. Vedanta changed our life. And he personally, because of all his loving and his powerful vibration, affected each of us in an extraordinary way.
And he became yours forever.
He is mine. Can't you see him? He is right
Yeah,
here. Right here.
Yeah.
He is here. Always. Always.
Anyway, thank you so much, for this wonderful, time that you had given to me to listen to your wonderful memories.
Thank you.
And I look forward to listen to more memories because now there is time shortage and they have to go
Yes.
to record Swami Mitrananji's talk. So I beg your pardon. Next time when you come, I'll record some more.
We'll do
right.
some fun.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
did the most important
Yes,
things.
right. Okay.
And thank you very much.
I should be thankful to you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Swamiji. He really was. He is